In today's video, I got the pleasure of having a conversation with Oliver Brocato, who's the self-proclaimed Willy Wonka of Twitter. He's actually one of the co-founders of Tabs Chocolate, a brand that is just totally crushing it. They've gone from 0 to 5 million in only a couple years, and some of the strategies that they utilize to blow up the brand with TikTok organic and other organic strategies are incredibly inspiring. We talked about all of that plus more. We talked about his journey, some motivational things, his routine. I guess Nina wants to say hi. Say hi, Nina. But anyways, this was an incredibly inspiring conversation and an overall good time. So I'm 100% sure that you'll enjoy it and learn something from it. If you wouldn't mind, before we begin, to support this podcast and overall channel, make sure you check out some of the links in the description. For example, our Shopify link, where you can start your own Shopify store for only $1 a month for 3 months. It's an incredible deal. Tabs Chocolate is also a Shopify store. And if you want to get some further education on e-commerce and Shopify, you can also check out some of the AKEMI Lab products. But with that said, let's get right into the video.
I saw that you were looking for guests. I was like, fuck, I'd be honored.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, no, I'm super happy to have you. I mean, I have so much, everybody knows about Tabs. So I told, for example, somebody on my team, I was like, I was on a meeting. I was like, I got to interview this guy. He's like, no way. That guy's a genius. He was super hyped. Swear to God, bro. Swear to God. It was pretty funny. So we got a lot to go through today. I mean, obviously it's going to be just a chill conversation though. It's nothing crazy, but I'm going to try to ask you some really cool stuff that I have in mind. We're just going to get right into it though, if you don't mind.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Oliver, welcome. And, a lot of people, like I just said, know you from Tabs. So you're pretty well known in the space already. So you don't need a huge introduction. But if you wouldn't mind just giving us, what you're up to right now, I guess what would be your introduction message?
Oh, man. So I definitely got my hands full at the moment. Tabs is my main focus, my main priority. And then on the side, I started a little spin-off agency, leveraging a lot of the mechanisms and systems that I built out for Tabs and kind of bringing it to other companies, working with GFuel, talking to Budweiser, Orange Theory.
Damn.
They're kind of smaller, mid-sized e-com brands as well. So got that going on the side. And then I'm also launching a Shopify app in the super early stages there, just kind of working on the design and the logo right now. I think it's going to be probably 8 months out. But yeah, I got my hands on a couple different projects and keeps me interested and excited. And
okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad I asked because that gives me a lot of stuff to potentially ask you about because I didn't know you were involved in all that. I knew about your agency and Tabs, but I did not know about this SaaS project. That's amazing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
let's just begin with Tabs just because I know that, again, that's what a lot of people know you from and kind of the big success. I'm really curious right off the bat. I want to know, because I work with some people that have adult products. What were some of the initial obstacles, bro? How did you guys get the first boost in brand revenue, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was very scary, in the start because right off the bat, we were banned off Facebook ads, we were banned off TikTok ads, banned off Google ads, banned off Snapchat ads. And so we were kind of fuck, what do we do? Where do we go with this? And so we're kind of forced to explore alternative channels and means. Now, granted, we kind of had TikTok in mind when we first launched Tabs. And so we knew that we could make some sort of push with influencers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's how scalable can that really be? How much longevity is there really in that channel? And so that was kind of a question that was haunting us quite a bit in the early days. In our first week, or actually I would say the weeks leading prior to Tabs launch, I was working around the clock, just messaging, DMing, texting, Creator Marketplace, TikTok Creator Marketplace, emailing as many influencers as I possibly could. Basically the criteria was, being US based, having anywhere from 50 to 250,000 followers. So more of the micro guys, don't have to pay them as much. And trying to find couple-based influencers. And we tried to work with as many as we possibly could. We landed out with about 20 to 30 in the pipeline. And so for the first week, we just had, these influencer posts going out sporadically, and we'd see the post would go up, revenue would spike, and then as soon as things start to trail off, revenue would be back at zero. And then the next day we would have an influencer go up, revenue would hit a couple $100, maybe a couple $1,000 on a good one, and then right back, the revenue would drop down to zero. And so it was definitely a good sign early on, but at the same time it was like, okay, this is cool, but like, how do we create some sort of like baseline? How do we make sure that we're getting numbers day in, day out the same way we would if we had paid ads running? And so that took quite a bit of time, which I'm happy to talk about. But yeah, that's kind of like the early days of Taps.
Interesting. Yeah, that actually, because I was gonna ask you something related to this, since I know more or less how you guys are marketing. I'm really curious because I mean, obviously attribution is really tough probably when you're working with like 20, 30, 50 influencers. I mean, that probably took a long time to develop, but do you guys now have basically like a system to create sort of like predictability, or is it still basically just like shotgun?
Well, so the early days were shotgun, right? Because it was like kind of one-off influencer collaborations that were like a little here, a little bit there. Um, but I had this realization that like, that wasn't going to be like a long-term sustainable strategy. On top of it being like super unpredictable and just like this roller coaster of like highs and lows, um, it took a crazy amount of time and effort and organizational like bandwidth in order to operate such a program. In order to work with like those 20 influencers, we probably sat in like thousands of DMs, thousands of emails, thousands of texts. We casted such a wide net, and despite that, most people just don't respond; they just ignore you. Of those that do respond, they want to charge you like exorbitant rates, and then others that say yes, half of them end up like saying like send the product and yeah, I'll do it, and then they ghost you after that. So it's kind of like a bit of like a shitty. It's a really shitty process. I'm sure like working like on a large scale with influencers is crazy difficult. I assembled a team of virtual assistants like to kind of streamline operations. I did what I could, but like at the end of the day, like it was a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And so I realized like, hey, like we got to figure out some sort of alternative method. And at that time, I ended up like kind of connecting with Jimmy Farley. Shout out Jimmy. He's actually my roommate today.
Yeah.
One of my best friends. And I connected with this other guy, Kimiko, who's also one of my closest homies to this day. And they were doing something that was like a pioneer at the time, which was like TikTok organic, which we all obviously know what that is now. But like instead of working with like one-off influencers, the idea was to create like a brand page TikTok account, bring a creator on retainer, and have them post 30 TikToks, one a day, over the next month. And so I brought Keon, and the first month he fucking smashed it. Right? I think he did like $60,000 or $70,000 in sales, directly attributable, like directly to his account. And I was like, holy shit, there's so much potential here. Now, how do we scale this? The problem is that like if we brought on more TikTok content creators onto that page, it would screw up the algorithm. The reason being is like TikTok doesn't want to see like too many chefs in the kitchen. They basically understand like an account. They understand like the person, the ethos, like the consistency, etc. And then they deem it, good or not good. And if it's good, they show it to an audience. And that's kind of like how I understand the algorithm to work for the most part.
Right.
And so if you put like 8 different creators with 8 different styles on one account, you kind of lose like the nicheness of the account. When you look at the most successful accounts, like I look at like, the Subway guy, it's like pretty much the same freaking video day in, day out.
Over and over.
Right, or you look at like the Cold Stone, like ice cream guy, Dylan LeMay, right? Again, same video over and over and over again. So I had this idea of instead of like bringing multiple creators onto Key's account, what I was gonna do was, scale horizontally across multiple accounts, bringing on multiple independent creators, matching it one creator per one account. And so over the next like 8 months, I scaled out to like scores. I mean, even at one point, like 100 plus creators and 100 plus accounts.
That's crazy.
That strategy with like Andrew Tate, who's also
right.
He ran that up and did a better job than I did. I don't want to say like I created the strategy, but I will say like I was pretty Andrew Tate.
Yeah, you're an early pioneer. It's so funny how you mentioned that. That's genius because I could see TikTok not liking too many cooks in the kitchen, which is it's just funny because it adds a whole other meaning to the let them cook, thing. It's just funny as fuck. But beyond that, that's really smart. And are you guys still doing that till this day then? I mean, I'm sure you are if it worked, right?
Yeah, still doing that to this day. Probably like one of our strongest channels. Unfortunately, like a lot of the creators that we started off with, we've had to cut and kind of readjust as time's gone by. And it's kind of just like a constant like hamster wheel where we just always are bringing in new creators, testing new creators, cutting low performers, doubling down on high performers. But like that's a kind of one of our main systems
Mm,
that produces the overwhelming revenue for us month after month.
that's amazing. Now, I want to ask you something because I mean, obviously, this sounds like a ton of work, bro. A lot of logistical efforts, organizational efforts, like you were saying, bandwidth. How were you able to manage this while going to school? Because at the time you were in school, right?
Right. Well, so when we first launched, I ended up dropping down from full time student status. I was a sophomore studying business at Ross at the University of Michigan, um, and I ended up going down to part time, where I was literally taking like two classes, um, and it was a joke, man. Ross has this thing called the Ross curve. I'm about to expose the fuck out of him. But basically, like the worst you can get in the class, like I'm talking like even if you just absolutely bomb, the worst you can
Hmm.
get in the class is a B, right? So like I went to class, like put my headphones in, was on my laptop the entire time, like crammed for like 2 days before finals, got like some really like shitty, scores back on the finals, whatever. But ended with a B or B plus even in those
That's
two classes.
crazy. Is that
Yeah,
just to retain students, or like why do they do that?
ask Ross. I don't know, man.
That's wild.
It's wild. But that's I don't want to get too deep into like the school rabbit hole, but like that's a big reason why like I left school, honestly, because it's like 90% of those kids are like drinking, like smoking every single fucking night. Like they don't give a shit about school. They don't, I mean, which like it's fine, but like they don't give a shit about anything. It's kind of just
Yeah.
like it's like companies and people in the outside world like look at university as like this pedigree and like this super esteemed kind of institution, and like from the inside, like I can tell you, like you know, I find it like it's a joke, but controversial take. I know.
I don't think so, honestly, these days, bro. I think a lot of people are starting to get onto, just how inefficient it is, how wasteful it is in terms of time, like it's money, like everything. It's tricky.
Right.
But I'm just curious. Oh, so you only had two, classes. That's not a lot to manage.
Right.
If anything, maybe it helped you like stay focused, probably like to be at school
Oh,
or no.
dude, it was crazy. So like one of the classes was like an accounting class, and like it was like the most boring stuff ever. And so as a result, like just being in that class like made the other boring work that like I would always push to the side like so
Hmm.
far. Like I'd rather like be like digging in like a spreadsheet with like some bullshit that like I would never want to do than like listen to the professor. So I don't know. Arguably, it may have increased my
That's funny,
productivity.
man. The
Yeah.
contrast just made it so much better. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, what do
Exactly.
you think? Now you're obviously still kind of diverting your focus a bit through all the things that you're doing, but you're managing it well. I'm curious, what does your daily routine look like these days?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm definitely like splitting my time through like the different ventures, but I will say like first off, tabs is like my number one priority. It's what I spend the most amount of time on. And secondly, like it uses the same part of the brain. There's so much like synergy like across the brand, the agency, and then the SaaS project is on the back burner. Like I have a designer that I onboarded like a couple weeks ago, and he's doing like a lot of the grunt work, and then I'm checking in with him like a couple times a week. So there's really not that much going on there. Um, so I mean that's kind of like the gist of all the different projects. So it
Hmm.
sounds like I'm doing a lot, but in reality, like it's pretty much the same thing, just different vehicles. In terms of what my daily routine looks like, wake up. I'm a very early morning guy. I wake up pretty early at around like 6:30
Oh,
a.m.
okay.
And I try to go to the gym like immediately. I have a bit of like ADHD, and so I found that like working out just has done wonders for me, like mentally and in terms of like my focus and like productivity. So yeah, hit the gym, come back, and just get after it. Every day is different. I wish I could tell you, like what that work looks like, as I'm sure like right? Like just like whatever's happening is happening.
Right.
Um, yeah, and usually like it starts with tab stuff, and then I get lost doing 800 other things,
Yeah.
uh, and then yeah, I just go about my day, man.
Do you go to bed pretty early?
Yeah, I do go to bed early. My roommates clown me for that. But like,
How
it,
early?
fuck.
Just tell me, bro.
Um, I mean, it depends on the night, but usually around like 9:30, like 10 p.m. I'm like
Hey,
asleep.
I think that's respectable, bro. I don't think that's something to be ashamed of. That's pretty wild though. That's so early. Damn.
Yeah, but I mean, like obviously, like if I'm going out or like I can hang, but
Yeah. No, I
it's just
know I know what you mean. How's
yeah.
your like health outside of like working out? Do you eat pretty healthy?
I've been trying to. I recently like got a bit of like a life coach. He's
Mm.
kind of like a fitness coach, but also helps out in like other aspects too, right? Like with diet, with lifestyle. I mean, with girls, I'll talk to him
Oh
about like
damn.
girls, um, all that shit. So he's kind of like a big brother to me. And we're friends. Like he doesn't even charge me. Like I help him out with some of his ecom stuff, help him out with some of his TikTok stuff, and he's kind of like an older bro. So that's
That's
pretty fucking
awesome.
cool. Yeah. But I try to like really kind of focus on living a healthy life because I think that like really permeates into business.
Mm.
Like I don't know if this is a good thing, but like I don't have a lot of separation between business and life. And so like when I'm on my shit, like working out and eating well, and like living like a healthy, strong lifestyle, like I'm also killing it on my ecom brand. I'm also killing it on my agency, like and like it's everything is so like tied and connected. I'm sure you can relate to that,
Yeah,
right?
100%, bro. I feel the same exact way. And I mean,
Yeah.
I liked how you mentioned even at the when you were talking about how you built these businesses in this synergistic way. That's exactly how I've been trying to approach my business for a while. So I also don't have huge separation, even though I have like a little family. I don't have a huge separation, but it works because it's like all is related. And yeah, like the health aspect of it, when I'm with my girl, for example, like relaxing, I know that that's helping me in my business too, because now
Right.
I'm like getting refreshed and then I'm ready for the day. And I think it also makes it feel that way too. Like everything is more put together when you got all the little things in check because you're less emotional about like I don't know the immediate results. At least for me, like that's how it feels.
Totally, and even like on like a scientific level, like eating the right food and like working out, like helps with your productivity. It helps with your focus, helps with your energy levels. Like like that. I mean, it's all like tied to each other.
Hmm.
Um, so, and like, I mean, the other thing is like discipline too, right? Like, when you're disciplined in one area, like it usually translates to other areas. And like when I'm slacking on my fitness or I'm slacking on whatever it may be, like usually like I'm not really pushing as hard as I should be on my business too. So,
Right.
I try to like hold myself to like with to high standards and with a lot of accountability.
So now you're like living with some of your entrepreneur slash best friends, which is amazing. How would you say that's influenced you in the past few months? Because you guys only moved in together a few months ago, right?
Yeah, literally like a month ago, and I mean it's been amazing. It's been incredible. When I was in school, I was living in the fraternity house, and I vividly remember one of my buddies telling me that I talk too much about business and I talk too much about working out, which is like pretty fucking
It's like, bro,
crazy,
you're
right?
scaring all the hoes. You're talking about tabs.
um, and like it's a cheesy saying, but like you really are like the person that you surround yourself, like the five closest people that you surround yourself with. Uh, and since like moving and after school, it was kind of like very temporary. I lived in Miami for a couple months. I lived in Austin for a month. I moved
Mm,
back home for a couple months. I traveled around Europe for a month. Like it was just like this never ending like go 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 go. And since I moved to Scottsdale, I feel like I finally like planted my flag. I've settled down, and I'm around like brothers that that I care about me. There's a lot of love. And I mean, on a business standpoint, like we all motivate and inspire the fuck out of each other. Like
mm.
they're all killing it, like in their respective fields. I'm doing pretty good myself. And so, there's like this like motivation, like friendly kind of competition where I think we're
Yeah.
all leveling up. And then on top of that, like we're all here to help each other. Like we're all like sharing, strategies and what's working and what's not working, and what we're hearing through the grapevine, through what I'm hearing from my friends, and what Luke is hearing from his friends, and what Jimmy's seeing in his world. And so as a result, like I think like the growth is just laser fast. And then on top of
Mhm.
that, just like picking up like healthy habits too. Like Jimmy is super into cold plunges, and we got a little cold bath, like on our balcony, and so I've been ripping that with him like pretty religiously. Like
Damn.
some other small things. So life is good, bro. I'm really happy. I'm like finally like settled in, and I'm locked. Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure it's gonna have like a huge influence in your business too. I love that. Now, I'm really curious. How was that? How were you? Were you motivated like at the same level before? Let's say when you were in your fraternity house, and maybe for different reasons, like maybe a chip on your shoulder type of thing. What do you think about that?
Um, yeah, I was definitely motivated, but I also felt like very alienated, right? Because like I
Mm-hmm.
was the outlier. Like I was the guy that was like always talking about business. Um, and I mean, like I love like my college friends. I love like my frat brothers, or like whatever you want to call them. But it just like wasn't my life, man. They would spend like every waking moment they had like chilling in a bedroom, like with the TV on, like ripping bong, and they could waste like I mean that's how they spend like their 4 years, and like for me like I just could not do that. I have like an internal like fire, like an internal
Like a
like
drive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying like I don't like whether that's good, like a good thing, a bad thing, like whatever. I don't think that like makes somebody better than somebody else. It's just like different, like super different. And so it was. I mean, it was a little lonely, like at school. Where like, yeah, I mean, I definitely had like great friends around me, and I also like broadened my horizons, and like met a bunch of other like entrepreneur friends at school. But like being here, like surrounded by people that are just like me, that are like in the same field, that are in the trenches, and like have like the same mentality and like vision, and like there's nothing else like it, man.
It's
It's
different.
super powerful, yeah, and I
No,
love it.
that's awesome, bro. I mean, especially in Scottsdale, I feel like that was a great location for you guys to move to, just because there's so much going on. But then there's also like, for like the landscape almost makes you lock in even further, just because it's like the same thing all the time. It's like you know, not a lot of change in weather,
Yeah,
which can be good for that, for just locking in and focusing.
100%. I think this is like a great place to lock in. Initially when I said I was moving to Scottsdale, my family was like, "What the fuck? Like Scottsdale? Like why are you going to Scottsdale? Like what's in Scottsdale, man? You're making the biggest mistake of your life." Uh, my family's from New York, from the East Coast, and it's like, we've got a bit more like bigger cities, whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
and I told them like straight up, like, the reason why I'm here is not really because of the location. It's more to be with like my homies, to be with like my brothers and people that are like me.
Yeah.
And if Jimmy and Lucas said like we're going to Antarctica, I'd be like, yo, I'm down. Like I'm with
Yeah.
it. Like let's run it up. Because like I don't think it matters like where we are. Like we're gonna have an amazing time. A and B, like we're all gonna level up so hard together. That like I was like super like location agnostic.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I feel that 100%. How did you guys meet? Like how were you guys? How'd you guys get
Yeah.
so close?
Dude, we met on Twitter, which is like so crazy and so weird because like I'm a pretty normal dude. Like I wasn't like an internet kid growing up. Like I never had like a Discord like growing up. I wasn't like really like playing video games with random people. Like I know like a lot of other like internet kind of kids are, but like
Hmm.
no, I was a pretty normal like dude. I was like on the soccer team. I played lacrosse for my high school, like whatever. So like it sounds like a very like weird concept for people that really aren't in our world to like like meet people on Twitter and like become friends with them. Um, but I mean, like it happened like super organically. And the other cool thing about us three is that like we all came up together. Like we were all like pretty much, I don't want to say like broke, but like we all were like pretty much like newbies, beginners, and didn't come from much. And like we've all just been on like this trajectory together, which has been like super fucking cool.
That is super cool. Yeah, I mean, Twitter is just powerful like that, and social media in general. And I'm sure now that you guys are together, it just makes such a big difference. That's how I felt in this event recently. I thought you guys should have gone to it. It was Noah's. viral ecom ads event
Oh
in
man, we
Arizona?
dude, we almost went. Alex Fedotov invited us to speak at his like event in
In
Miami.
Miami? Oh.
So like we couldn't say no. Like I really we all really wanted to go to Noah's like viral ecom event, but like like speaking at an event versus like going to an event, we were like, okay, like this is like a pretty once in a lifetime opportunity.
Oh,
So we
facts. That's amazing. That Alex Fedotov is a beast. I'm hoping to have him on the podcast too. But my point was that meeting people in person, like putting like an
uh,
actual face to the name on Twitter, it just felt like it just made such a big difference. It was so cool.
totally. I mean, like before we all moved in together, we all got like an Airbnb in Austin, like last I think it was like August. And so we like that was like our first time all like really meeting each other, living together, like bobbing each other out. But yeah, like obviously like we knew that we fucked with each other, like in a business sense and like on a personal level. But like there is definitely something to be said about meeting each other. Um, and like we all just like really clicked and hit it off and like had a blast in Austin, like and we knew that like we're gonna run this back. Like this time, not for a month in an Airbnb, but like for a year, 2 years, whatever it is.
So are you originally from New York?
So I was actually born in London. I
Oh
lived in
shit.
London 4 years, but I grew up in like New York, like pretty much my whole entire childhood.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Why did you guys move to New York?
My mom's family like is from New York, and so I think like my mom like really wanted to be around family, and so
Mm.
I think that was kind of what like prompted them to make that trip back from London to America. Both my parents are American. They were just like working abroad. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's I'm guessing then if they were working abroad, like they probably went to school. How did they take the news of you? Or maybe I'm wrong, but how did they take the news of you
Yeah.
dropping out?
Yeah. I mean, like, I come from a family of like high achievers and like very corporate. My dad is in finance. My mom was in consulting. My mom went to like Harvard Business School and Columbia, and my sister goes to Yale. And
Goddamn.
my dad's like brilliant. He couldn't afford to go to a good school, so he ended up going to like some state school when he was growing up. But like, um, in any case, so like come from like a very kind of traditional like pressure cooker type household. Uh, and like my parents would threaten me all the time, like they were gonna take away my business. If I didn't like study the books or like get a better like practice SAT score, like whatever like little like side project I was running, because like that's what like drew my attention, and like that's what I was always passionate about since I was like 14 years old.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, like when I first told, I never dropped out. Like it first started off with like, hey, like I'm gonna go from full time to part time, and then it's like, hey, like I'm gonna take a gap year, and then it's like, yo, I can take up to 10 gap years. Technically with the school. So like, you know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
kind of like a slow descent rather than like, yo, like I'm peacing out.
that's super
Um,
smart.
uh, yeah, I mean, like at first, like my dad was really, I mean, both my dad and my mom, but especially my dad, were like super anti, going off on an unconventional path. But over time, like they started to see the light, and they become like very supportive, and yeah, like very proud of me. I remember like my dad's a bit of a hardo. He grew up in Italy, so again, like a very traditional household, and you know the times back then were like different.
Right.
Yeah, like just very, like the way that like parents would interact like with their kids. Like not like my dad was like beat when he was a kid and like spanked and all that shit. And like
Hmm.
he never touched me growing up, but like he thought that he was probably being a saint, but like he was very tough. He was very tough.
Yeah.
Um, and um, again, he was like very anti like you know leaving school and doing some like unconventional type things. And I remember like recently, about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, like I texted him about like a milestone that the company hit, and I was telling him about like some of the stuff that we were doing, and he sent me like a really like beautiful like text. And
Oh, that's
um,
awesome, bro.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too like emotional or like sad here, but like I just started crying for like 20, 30 minutes, because like it just meant a lot, like coming from my dad. And yeah.
Yeah, dude, that sounds awesome, especially knowing like how I can totally relate because my family has also been kind of like that. Like we lived abroad, and my parents, both of them went to school, and they were like placed a big value
Uh,
on that. So I'm sure that meant the world, to get that
yeah.
sense of approval.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I think that was like probably like one of like my favorite moments of like my journey thus far is like getting that like kind of like check from my dad like yo like I'm proud of you son and like you're on the right path and like whatever because yeah I mean he means the world to me like my whole family does and he doesn't like toss those kinds of like praises or words out
Right.
like so,
Yeah, that makes
uh,
it that much more meaningful. And I mean, what's
yeah
really cool is that you also did it your own way. Like, it's not, you didn't do this like cookie cutter, like, you made it.
no
It was like totally went
yeah.
into the unknown. So I'm sure he has a sense of relief now. That's awesome.
I mean, it was a roller coaster too, man. Like, it wasn't just like, hey, like right off the bat, like 0 to 100, right? Like, I mean, there were times where, even after like I took this gap year, where I was like, fuck, like, did I make the wrong decision? Like, I could have been like back at school, like partying and getting fucked up and
Yeah.
all these girls or whatever, whatever. And like, here I am, like alone, like by myself, like grinding, and the company's falling apart, and my partner is like fucking completely MIA, and this like my right hand guy is like trying to extort me for equity, and like the TikTok's banning every single video we put up, and the whole entire world feels like it's caving in, which I think like makes the journey like all that more like satisfying and rewarding. Honestly, like all those like scars like builds tissue and just like even more strength, and gratitude for like the highs as well.
I love that you mentioned that because I think that doesn't get covered nearly enough. Like in terms of and just this whole entrepreneur community, it's just a lot about the Lambos and the girls and
Right.
the whatever. But I really think it's important to highlight like the lows, especially because that's probably what a lot of beginners feel like a lot of the time because they're just getting it's L after L with like no sign of hope. So how did you deal with that? How do you deal with that till this day? Like, have you gotten better at dealing with the lows?
That's a good question. I think it is something that you just get better with like over time, like the more experience. And honestly, like as fucked up as it is, but like the lower the lows, like I guess like it recalibrates you almost with like okay, like I can tolerate it. I can it reframes you. Where it's like imagine like you're getting tortured. It's like if somebody does the absolute worst of the worst to you, then anything after that like feels like a piece of cake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like what used to maybe like completely knock you off your course or like like wreck you is now just like you brush it off without even a second thought. So I mean I think it's like something that just like over time you become like more and more tough, with experience and going through it. But what I will say is you're right, people don't talk about it enough, but every single successful person that I've ever met can go on and on and on forever about all the L's and the times that they got scammed and the times they got screwed over and the mistakes that they made and going broke or almost going broke or almost losing it all or even losing it all like that is I think like part of the journey, part of the path, and like
It
you
is.
can't skip that. Like as much as like everybody wants the hot girl and the Lambo and all the success, like that doesn't come like without any of the shit. Um, and I mean, I think it's important that like you go through that. I don't want to say it's important to go through that. I'm going to say you will go through that. Like there's
Yeah.
no way you won't go through that. Like if you want to like reach the point that everybody wants to reach.
Exactly. And it's like that's kind of what separates the men from the boys, quote like, is if you can make it through that, then you'll reap the rewards. If you can't, then, maybe do something that's a little bit less, I guess, emotionally breaking or whatever. So
Right.
that's pretty cool though. I mean, I'm really happy to see where you're at now, even though I didn't know you before. Like I can already feel sort of like the growth that you've experienced. So that's pretty cool. I want to ask you something really interesting because I've noticed, especially now that you're working, you have this agency, you're not doing it alone. So that's pretty smart. How did you get into these partnerships? Because you also have Jake on the Tabs team. Like, how did you partner up with somebody at the beginning, like not knowing people in the space?
Yeah, I mean, it was it's a long story, but it's just like having time in the game, having time in the field, doing cool shit, where like people start to look at you and be like, oh, like this kid's like pretty dope. Like I want to partner with him, or I want to work with him in some sort of capacity, and the feeling's mutual in both regards. But like I think that like if you want to find a good partner, like you need to attract that. Like you need to be a good partner yourself. Um, and I think like the rest of like the pieces will kind of fall into place. Um, in regards to like I guess like my partnership with Jimmy, we were both. I got approached by like a couple of my friends that were like begging me to like run their like TikTok strategy and some of their content creator stuff, and so I took him on like on the side, and Jimmy also took on a couple clients on the side, and we were like best friends. We still are, we were best friends, and we're talking every day, and we're like, yo, like there's so much synergy here. Like let's run this together, and it kind of just evolved over time, where the partnership got better and stronger, and the business, excuse me, continued to expand and flourish. In terms of my partnership with Jake, um, I like that's a whole other story. There's a lot of like background, but like basically like one experience led to the next, where I ended up doing some work with this guy who was partners with Jake on another project, and I ended up working with them on that project, and Jake and I just like hit it off and grinded together like day in day out, and became like brothers, and then eventually ended up going and launching Tabs together as 50/50 partners. So
That's
I
so
guess that's
cool.
yeah, I guess that's the long story short of it. But I guess like yeah, to summarize that, it's like do exceptional shit, and like people will like be like getting in line to like work with you almost.
That's such a great approach, bro, because it also goes in line with something I believe. And I think most people would agree that this is true is like when you're chasing something like super hard, chances are it's just going to run away from you. Whereas if you try to attract something and like become that person, things will just naturally gravitate
Yeah,
towards you.
for
So that's always a better approach. And I see right now like the exact opposite going on in my DMs where everybody's like cold DMing me 24/7. I'm like, bro,
sure.
there's no, like, it literally makes me look at my DMs less now because I'm just like, I just
Yeah,
don't want to see it. And it's not interesting. So I guess
yeah,
that's just one piece of advice for people out there. Like, if you are gonna do cold DMs, like, I don't know, mate, like do some free work or something ahead of time. Just make it
yeah,
interesting, because otherwise, it's
yeah.
not worth it for people to look at, right?
Yeah, it's also just like mad corny too to just like cold DM somebody like, yo, like let's partner up. Like a partnership is something that's like super like important, and it's long term, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like people talk about it's like getting married to someone,
It is.
It's like raising a baby with someone. Like you think like you're gonna like partner up with somebody off of a cold DM. Like how about like get on the phone with the guy, like befriend the guy, like know the person, do some work, like etc. It's not like you can go from like 0 to 100 like that in like on Instagram DMs. Like whack. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's part. I mean, part of the reason I think is just because there's a lot of people selling courses, like advising to just like go out there and just cold DM as much as you can, like on any service or whatever. Just generally speaking, but that's besides the point. How? So now you guys are, obviously you have your reputation with Tab, so you're getting approached with by some of these big brands like GFuel and shit. I didn't
Yeah.
know you guys were working with GFuel. I love GFuel. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
does a deal like that work? Like who's approaching you? Like or are you outreaching to them? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, all of our clients have been inbound, man. Since I started Tabs, about like 2 years ago, um, I've been like documenting my whole entire journey on Twitter, um,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of behind the scenes, what's going on, tactics, strategy, like sauce that other people can implement and use, trying to give value to people. Um, Even just like tweeting about like my thoughts, my feelings, whatever. Um, and over time, I've started to build up like a pretty amazing community of entrepreneurs in the e-commerce space, a lot of brand builders, that fuck with me and like fuck with my work. And Jimmy's the same. I mean, Jimmy has like twice as many followers as I do, like
Mm-hmm.
twice the amount of reach. Um, and so we get hit up all the time, like hey, like would love to learn more about like your TikTok stuff, or hey, like can we hop on a call and would love to like go through some strategy, or hey, can you run it for us? And so we've been really blessed. We're like we don't even have a website, like we don't have like a business card, like we don't have like a logo. It's just
That's so
uh,
dope.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah.
I love the simplicity. So, I mean, this is just out of sheer curiosity. How much time do you think you spend in your DMs every day?
Hmm. Um, not a crazy amount. I'd say probably like a half an hour to an hour a day.
Okay, and that's like you're mainly on Twitter, right? Like you're not really
Yeah,
doing content anywhere else, right?
yeah, mainly Twitter. Although like I started to like recognize the power of the personal brand and the power of like influence. I don't sell a course. I don't have a Discord. I'm not monetizing it really. Um, whereas a lot of other people are. But like I'm seeing it in terms of like the ROI of like friendships and connections and networking and like exchanging sauce with other like high level like ecom guys that have like changed the way that I operate and changed the
Mm-hmm.
way that I run my business. And even like random like people will sometimes they may be like, "Yo, like, are you like taking on any investors or like just like or like crazy opportunities?" And I'm like, "Holy shit! Like this is wild." So this year, like, I want to go deeper. Like, I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to like maybe start a newsletter. Maybe like take the YouTube long form and clip it up and go get on TikTok or I don't know. I still have to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I want to like really invest in because um, I mean, the impact is just absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, especially seeing it. I mean, in your case, it's primarily through Twitter. It just speaks to the power of Twitter. I feel like maybe it's undervalued by a lot of people right now, especially in the
Def-
business world.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's
But how
interesting,
about you?
man.
How much time do you spend on your DMs? I'm curious.
I mean, yeah, I was asking you because sometimes, well, after I said the thing about the cold DMs, I started to internally feel a little bad because I do respect the hustle, like I respect the hustle of people going out there
Right.
and like DMing people. Like that's amazing that you're willing to do that. But as somebody that receives a lot of DMs, like now
Yeah.
I feel like I hardly spend time in my DMs because there's just so much clutter that I have to go through. So I mean, probably the same amount, like 30 minutes a
Yeah.
day, trying to manage like you know my connections, I guess, that I talk to in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I mean, you should think about maybe like putting like a VA or some shit on that, or like an appointment setter, or like I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean that's a great idea. Like I haven't done it up until this point just because I felt like well it's not gonna be literally me. But I have
Right.
been. I think it is smart though, especially if I tell them that they should just say that it's not me. Like I don't want to pretend to not be me.
Right.
That's kind of
Right.
that's where I draw the line personally. Like I try to keep
Yeah,
it
for
authentic.
sure. For sure. I'm just thinking like for some VA to just like sort through that noise and clutter. So it's like, hey, like if they're valid, like put them in the primary inbox and like Ari will like get back to you. If they're like, noise, like throw them in the general inbox and like at least they get a response, you
Hell
know?
yeah. And I mean, I do have a site and I do get a lot of inquiries and leads and stuff. And I do have somebody that takes a look at those. But I'm definitely missing out on a lot of like DM stuff. It's just so
Yeah.
overwhelming that,
I
I
mean,
just
that's
haven't even
dope to
wanted
be
to
in that
take the time.
position. I mean, that's dope to be in that position though, man. And I'm not surprised. You're fucking killing it on YouTube, killing it on the
Thanks,
content
bro.
game, and obviously like in ecom in general as well. So,
Yeah, I'm
um,
just trying to
yeah.
stay locked in. I had a conversation with Harry the other day, the Beast of Ecom. I don't know if you know him. He's pretty low key. Um, and he's done like insane volume over the years. And it's just cool. Like I was like, what have you been up to these days? He's like, same old thing, bro. Just like in the trenches, just,
Oh
testing
yeah,
things, building these private label brands. I'm like, wow, it just inspired me in a way to know that he's just like going through the motions still, even after quote unquote making it. I'm very inspired by people that keep pushing it. So like it's not just about the money. It's like this discipline, and I think you alluded to that earlier.
totally, totally. And I think like that though that's like the biggest marker of like success in a lot of ways. It's like people that do like one thing and do it like a fucking machine over an extended long period of time. Like those are the people that like in 5, 10 years it's compounding, and then all of a sudden like they're uber successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cats that are jumping around from one project to the next. I think Hormozy said something like this, where he's like, there's always like those guys that are like, 2 years away from like strike or or like 2 months away, like or like 2 weeks away from like striking gold. 50 years go by and they're still 2 weeks away from striking gold, and just like not the way to be. And I see so many young guys fall into that trap,
Mm-hmm.
man. Where they're like they're just drifting from like day trading to flipping NFTs to getting into crypto to drop shipping to like whatever else is hot. It's like just focus
Right.
on one thing and like I mean if you put it in like if you put in the time, you put in the years, you put in the sacrifice, like you know 5 years will go by and you'll look back and be like, holy shit, like I'm a different person.
Exactly, bro. I think young people especially, and like I know this because I've been through this, it's really hard to think about the long-term potential of something, like, because in the short term it just feels almost like like it just doesn't feel like it's gonna, you can't imagine the scale that you can reach after doing something over and over again for a long time. And I think we don't know that because a lot of people, again, don't talk about the journey because it's not like sexy. But it's like Mr. Beast, for example. He was making videos for 10 years before he had like any sort of following, but people think he just popped up overnight because he knows like the secrets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean you're spot on, man. You're spot on, and I mean that's cool. Like that, you get to shed light on that though, and like
Hmm.
also dig into people's journey and show people that it's not just all like this glitz and glamour and like flash, but it's like it's real.
It is. I know. I feel really blessed lately. I'm glad to put more effort into just trying to get people on a just conversation like this. Because first of all, it's an excuse to just connect and like, I feel like after this, I feel like we're friends. It's like I feel like I get to know people really deeply. So it's
Yeah,
amazing in that way. And then also connections, and then also content. Like, what more could
yeah,
you ask for?
yeah, it's fire. That's fire. That actually honestly sounds like a really good setup, bro. Cause like, and I'm sure like you also learned a thing or two too. Like I learn a lot like through the like. I'm sure like you're calling all these different e-commerce people or even just like business guys in general. Like you're sharpening your own skill set, making
Oh yeah,
content,
bro.
showing
Exactly. I
people.
mean, that's why a lot of the questions are just questions that I genuinely have. And then again,
Right.
it's just an excuse to be able to like ask you now. And also it's like authentic. That's why I like to do it this way. I don't like to, make it super glamorous because I think there's just some rawness to it that just feels good, at least to me.
Yeah, no, that's fire. That's fire. Yeah, no, I thought it was like an interview at first, but like now like I'm warming up and it's like okay, like yeah, it's just like kind of like a friendly like phone call that I'd have like with one of my boys type shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna ask you the next question, which is just like, what are you up to? What's next? How are you guys gonna continue to scale? I mean, obviously you can't reveal the secrets, but I'm saying like, what are you looking into to make your traffic more consistent? Like running any sort of ads? Have you been approved on anything?
Yeah, yeah. So we went from like 0 to 7 figures, like pretty much like solely through organic. I think like what's
Hmm.
gonna take us to eight are a couple like main levers. One is moving internationally. Like 40% of all of our traffic comes from countries outside of the United States, and we only sell domestically. So just
Mm.
like that kind of one move is going to have a massive impact. Second is like getting on like more platforms. Like right now, we're fully direct to consumer via our Shopify site. I want to get on Amazon. I want to get on Walmart, and then I want to like break out of just like the internet and also break into like wholesale, mom and pop shops, smoke shops, sex shops, convenience stores, hotels, cruises, whatever.
Hmm.
So like I think like that's also like a really kind of big opportunity for growth. Um, and then lastly is the paid ad side of things. Um, when I started off, I didn't have as much experience. I didn't have like the same sort of connections that I have now, and so I wasn't able to navigate these murky waters as well. Like now if the Facebook account gets banned, then it's like a call to one of my buddies, and it's like where we can get that shit live.
Hmm.
Whereas before, it's like okay, like what do we do? Like now, it's like I could talk to like a rep at Facebook, and it's a whole like I'm playing a different game, right?
Right.
Uh, so figuring out how to crack paid, via a new landing page, super PG ads, reframing, the copy, et cetera, et cetera. But it's doable. And we're already testing the waters on Facebook. We're testing the waters on Snap. Google's push and wait. And so I think that's going to be like a huge, huge opportunity for us to really kind of take things and scale to the next level. So I would say like those are like the three most important things. And then behind that, I would say like just kind of doing what I'm doing before,
Right.
invest, into all the systems and all the infrastructure that I've already built out, and kind of scaling that. And then I'm really working on trying to figure out how to crack. Working with influencers at scale and going back to my roots from day one, and hopefully working with bigger influencers, pushing like bigger spend and um, bigger returns. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious because I know that you did a lot of like theme page marketing, Q4 and stuff like that. I was seeing some of your tweets. What do you think about theme pages on Twitter? Because I feel like that's something for the adult niche that could pop off.
Oh, we're ripping it. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Yeah, we're ripping it. See, like the thing was with Twitter was like this guy that I was working with who was helping me with like the Twitter theme pages. Like he was like completely like fucking me over and like jacking up the rates like big time.
That's the
And
worst
so
thing about a personal brand. I'm gonna warn you right now, bro. People try to fucking tax you like as much as possible.
well, yeah, and then you just gotta negotiate. Be like, yo,
Right,
like
right.
forget. Don't charge me anything. Like I'll shout you out. Like I'm sure, like bro, like you could probably get like anything you want for free, dude. Like with like a little mention on an episode. Like fuck, dude.
Maybe,
Um,
maybe, but still,
yeah,
people do try to, you know, negotiate up for themselves. But that makes sense. It's all good. It's not,
yeah,
it's not a big
yeah.
deal.
Well, dude, I have no problem with like negotiating up. What I have a problem with is when, this guy comes to me and tells me like, hey, it costs 100. I take a 20% commission, but in reality it costs 40. He's making 60, and he's making the 20%
Yeah,
commission. You know what I mean? Like that's when it's like, okay, dude, like you're trying to take advantage of me.
right.
So anyway, found somebody new that's helping me like really like penetrate the Twitter space. And we're really starting to kind of push them behind that and run that up for sure on the theme pages. Super powerful, super slept on.
Right.
But what I will say is that like you need to have like a viral product. Like it's not going to work for like your average drop shipping product. It has to have something that's like super unique and edgy and catches the eye. Which
Mm-hmm.
for us, like that was the whole entire basis of building this brand from the get go. So we're kind of playing the game on easy mode in that sense.
Yeah, true. You chose the perfect product for to hit all those things. So how, some advice I guess for some people that are just getting started in their business maybe, how can they, I mean, besides just, trying and failing cuz that's obviously a given. What would you
Right.
say they should look for when it comes to starting a business right now?
I think like it's hard to give like general advice. You know what
It
I mean?
is. It
Because
is.
I think it depends on like the person that I'm talking to, right? Like, is it a person that's like an absolute beginner that's like brand spanking new and like is looking to make their first $100? Is it somebody that's had a little bit of experience with drop shipping and is looking to build a brand? Like I guess it depends. It's hard. It's hard.
I would say my audience is generally people that have been like they've tried. They it ranges from people who have no idea, obviously, to people who
Right.
are like complete killers. But the
Right.
middle is mostly people who have tried. They're trying to make it work. Like they understand like winning products,
Right.
interest targeting. Like they understand some of the basics, but they're just
Right.
not cracking the code or
Okay.
whatever, right? So what would you suggest
Right.
to them?
Yeah. Well, I would probably say like the biggest opportunity like in our time right now is like TikTok organic, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
have to spend any money. You can test and validate any product, and you don't even need to hire a creator. Like if I were in that position, I was kind of like starting back off. Like I'd be putting up three TikToks every single day,
Right.
uh, and trying to figure that out. Or like even being the face of it. Like I see so many like awesome brands that are killing it, where it's like the founders are like storytelling and showing the behind the scenes and talking to like their segment, and it creates this like customer connection where they're not just like coming to buy the product, but they're falling in love with the ethos of the brand itself, which is incredibly powerful because that means that you can sell them anything.
Right.
uh, so I would say like familiarize yourself with TikTok organic. Like learn that skill, because again, like I don't think there's any other opportunity that would allow like somebody that's more on the entry level
Hmm.
kind of space, to go from 0 to 6 figures, 0 to 7 figures, with pretty much like no investment whatsoever besides their time and their hard work.
I love that. And I mean, I'm curious what you think now about, for example, because I agree with you, bro. The nature of TikTok and how its virality and just like the way that you can make content and interact with people through it is like unlike anything I've ever seen before in
Yeah,
my life. Especially
right.
now, considering that that same piece of content can go viral on like three other platforms. Like that's just insane to me. How are you guys
Oh,
leveraging that? And what do you think is the future of like? Do you think YouTube Shorts are gonna pop off now that they're monetized?
yeah, so I mean, like, bro, I leverage the fuck out of that. I have a Discord with 2,000 affiliates that basically take like all of our viral content, and
Mm-hmm.
they create their own like subsidiary brand pages. So if you look up like Tabs Chocolate on Instagram or YouTube, we have like thousands of like pages run by these affiliates that have their own unique coupon codes that just
Wow.
take our and blast it off into the ether. And everybody's like posting the same videos, posting at different times, posting at different geographies, whatever. And randomly, like people will get like 1 million views, 7 million views, 15 million.
2,000 affiliates.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a whole other story. It's a pretty amazing system that I've built out where like I've gamified the whole entire thing in a Discord where
Yeah,
like
how do you incentivize them? I mean, is it just like the affiliate commission or do you talk to them? Like, how do you
yeah,
manage
so
that, bro?
basically we built like a sick community where we have like a general chat, we have a gym chat, we have a game chat. So like it's it actually feels like you're like part of something.
Mm,
And people have become like friends and like homies, so that's one thing. But in terms of like how we reward them, they get a 20% commission on any sale that they make. We have like a wins chat that's going off like 24/7 where people are like, yo, I made my first sale, or like, I hit $1,000 in commissions, whatever it is. So like I think that's super motivating. And then on top of that, we have a base pay where like if they post for 30 days straight, they get like a certain kind of stipend. And then we also have like daily raffle spins where like if they just posted for the day, they react to a message. I have my VA that goes in, compiles all the names, puts them in a wheel, spins a wheel, and whoever it lands on wins like $5. And we spin the wheel like 3 or 4 times every single day just to kind of like give back to the community. And then we have like all these other challenges where like hey, like we're having like an invite like tourney, like the person that invites the most people for the day wins like $100. Just like all these like little like kind of growth hacky like tactics to a like increase retention and b encourage growth. So that's like a little kind of cool like marketing channel almost that
that's
I've
some
created.
sauce, man. That's
Yeah,
really genius.
thank you, dude.
That's genius. I love that. And that's literally taking the Andrew Tate method,
Yeah,
but applying it to a brand. So I love to see that because everybody's talked about, how to blow up your personal brand with this sort of clipping mechanic, you could say, but you're using it to grow your e-commerce brand. So that's
right.
brilliant, bro.
Oh, I mean, and it's generated probably like over 500,000 in revenue like over the past like 4 months.
That's
Like
crazy.
directly just from like the repost, which is pretty
And you can
fun.
see, they're getting their own individual discounts, so you can actually attribute that revenue
Exactly,
to them.
exactly, exactly.
That's awesome.
Uh,
That's the toughest part I think about organic is like handling attribution. Though even though like if you just know your sales are here and your spend is here, like you're good, right? But
but
it would be incredibly helpful to know more details on that, which is what you get with paid media is like exactly where your sales are coming from, or at least primarily. I mean, obviously there's a lot of missed attribution still on the paid
yeah,
side.
no, 100%. Although I will say that like I like live and breathe the business, and so I feel like I have like a spider sense, where
Yeah.
like I can like kind of like instinctually like feel like like just like looking at views, looking at different channels, where like I have a very good like gauge as to like kind of what's happening and what's pushing and what's not. So I
Right.
just like always have my finger on the pulse. But yeah, I mean it's probably better to have like data backed conclusive reports rather than me pretending to be a clairvoyant.
I mean, but that makes a lot of sense to me, bro. I'm a guy that I believe so much in intuition, like especially if you build mastery over something. Like obviously if you're just some random dude on the street and you like,
Right,
that still is valuable, but
right.
obviously your intuition is going to be way more powerful because you've been in the business for years. So that's the another big benefit of sticking to something long term is you just know it like the back of your hand and there's so much
Bro.
intangible value to that.
Bro, I feel like that's like the biggest secret to success in e-commerce that like people don't really say. So like I feel
Hmm.
like this whole entire game is one of intuition. Like the person doing like 8 figures or 9 figures isn't really like that much smarter than the person doing 7 figures. They've just seen more, they've experienced more, they've lived a longer like like more eventful kind of e-commerce life, and as a result like their brain just like is able to optimize and think differently and like know like how to move. Um, yeah, like I fully and that goes from like the 7 figure to the 6 figure and the 6 figure to the beginner too, you
Right.
know? So again, like the advice is like just don't quit and like spend as much time. Like getting in those reps, like failing, learning, moving forward, because like eventually like you'll start to like pave your path forward. And that's why you look at the guys that are running like 7-figure e-com brands, 8, 9-figure e-commerce brands. They're not one-trick ponies. It's the same principles. It's the
Mm.
same mechanisms. It's the same, like, whether they're selling sex chocolate or they're selling, leggings, or they're pushing an app or a software, whatever it is, right? Like it's all the same shit. And they've become so good at like just understanding how to get from point A to B, and that's what the real secret is. They don't have a higher IQ. They're not
Right.
smarter. They're not like like born with some like natural like inclination to become like rich. Like nah, man. I think it just like it boils down to experience, which leads to intuition, which leads to success in my mind.
Yeah, man. The mastery. You can't compete with someone who's been in their business for 2 years and you're just getting started. Like they just know so
Right,
much more. Even if they're, 20 IQ points dumber, it doesn't
right.
matter.
Right. And like you were saying before, like things compound, man. Like I always love to like look at like big businesses and like their first website. Like I don't know if you've seen like Airbnb's first site. Like it was dog shit, bro.
Yeah, it
You
was.
could like a kindergartner, like like some color, like some crayons, and they could come up with a better sketch. And so like I think the most important thing is just starting today, starting yesterday, uh, and then seeing it through.
Yeah, I always say that too. Like the best piece of motivational advice, and really the only piece of motivational advice you need, is by Nike, which is just do it. Straight up. Like that's all
Yeah.
the fucking advice you need. But that's awesome, bro. I'm really happy to have had you on. I think we can probably end it here just to end it on a bang. But
All
if
right.
you, I mean, obviously, people can find you on Twitter. You got your agency going on. You're building, this app, and Tabs. Of course, I've tested the product, and that shit is fire, bro. So you guys built an amazing product, which is probably why it's so successful, honestly. So,
Sorry, folks.
but it's a great product. Let's just keep it at that.
Thank you, bro.
But
Well, I appreciate
anyways,
you having me on, man. I
of
appreciate you
course,
having
bro.
me on. And, dude, it was great chopping it up.
Yeah, let's do a part two, like, a few months from now or 6 months from now. I'm trying to make that a thing. Like I did it with Luke. Luke Belmar. We just wrapped up an interview. I've done it with Jad.
Sure.
I got to get Jake back on. So that would be amazing. I would love to do that.
Hell yeah, man. Well, dude, it was great. And yeah, I'll catch you later.
All right, bro. Peace out.